with Elmer M. Kochsiek, Kochsiek, 1211 Capri Isles Boulevard, Unit Number 44, Venice, Florida, phone 813-485-8004, at the Kon Tiki Motel in Venice on Thursday, March the 2nd, 1989, with Helen Earley of the Oldsmobile History Center. Tape 1 of 1 tape, one side only.
And I hired out in the Minneapolis zone, and under the direction of Buzz Musler was the zone manager at that time. And I was immediately transferred to the western part of the state, Wilmer, Minnesota, where I lived for 2 or 3 years.
What did you do in the Minneapolis zone?
I was representative of the corporation.
District manager.
Oldsmobile region.
Any
problems the dealer might have to investigate them and try to get the right answer and back to the individual. You judge basically on the performance of the zone, how much merchandise they're moving out. That's where the money is. And of course, the Minneapolis zone was, I would say, one of the top zones in the country. And not primarily because of me, but I mean, you just get the right people and doing the right thing at the right time, and that's what it's all
If I talk, can you stop that?
We'll just put your name on the interview too, Myrtle, because then that'll be both of you.
He had a big zone. They had to go to Montana. He'd be gone for 2 weeks at a time.
What other area did Minneapolis cover?
Way to Montana. And where else beside Montana did you go?
Well, the Minneapolis zone covered Minnesota, all of Minnesota, north of Montana, and Wisconsin.
It was a large zone.
So it was quite a large zone.
How many dealers did
And
you?
we had trying to think how many dealers we had on the road. I would probably have that on that.
That's all right. We can go by that. That's okay. We can just move right along.
I would say offhand probably 250 dealers
Okay.
in that area. And our sales performance in the zone was well up along the top of the other in the country. And if a dealer had a problem any kind, needed help, well, we'd be right there to help wherever we can. We just to get the iron out the difficulty.
Did we move to Duluth yet?
Well, I'm still in Wilmer, but I'm about ready to move.
Okay.
Excuse me, Elmer. Do you remember how many cars a year the Minneapolis zone sold in 1937?
Gosh, I can't remember that.
Okay, that's okay.
I wish you had given
I
us
know that the year that I got that award for the top job, our zone was doing $100 million of business a year. And that took in car parts and accessories and all the items that we merchandise.
Was that after the war or before the war?
After the war.
After the war.
After the war.
Okay.
About $100 million performance.
What kind of problems would dealers have?
Well, sales problems primarily. Their performance of the sales organization. They didn't know exactly where they fit in the business world. They had to get in the automobile business, and they weren't quite ready for works, yeah. But, we trained the dealers, we had meetings with them. And the business management, we worked over their business management statements with them to, point out the weaknesses in their overall operation. It's all out the blue.
I wish we'd had some questions before we could have filled them in, you know, it'd have been easier to.
But I always had something, I was always busy doing something.
What kind of servicing problems did you handle?
Well, we had a service manager, all zones had a service manager. And, it was his responsibility to assist the service department personnel where they were having a problem and then how to correct them. So they're basically kind of a training program in a sense.
Who's general, excuse
Oh,
me,
I was gonna say Glenn Rittinger was one of our service sales managers. Glenn Rittinger?
Rittinger?
Mhm.
Yeah, he's retired now too.
Mhm.
I know that.
who was general sales manager when you hired in?
The sales manager?
The general sales manager at the home office in Lansing.
Oh. And his own manager, of course, was Buzz Musler. When I mentioned it.
Was
yeah,
it Dave
yeah.
Ralston?
No, the guy worked for Dave Rawlson too.
Yeah, but was he the
I think he
general?
followed, he was after Musler, I think. As a general sales sales manager, you know, over the entire country. And we had 3 or 4 of those during the time I worked there.
What kind of a man was Ralston to work with?
What kind of what?
What kind of a man was Ralston to work with?
Very well thought of and very capable. Done a fine job. Dave Rawlson, yeah, that's right.
Then you also worked for Jones.
I worked for G.R. Jones, I
Oh,
worked for
G.R.
Emmett Feely. They take one picture, we was looking at
Right.
Emmett Feely, yeah.
What kind of a man was Mr. Jones to work with?
Jones he was a different type.
How do you mean that?
I mean, you never knew one minute where the next where you stood with him, you know.
Okay.
Kind of kept you off balance all the time. That kind of a person. But he was entirely different than any other zone manager we had.
Okay.
Different person.
How long were you in the Minneapolis zone?
I was in Minneapolis zone 34 years.
Okay.
No, you weren't in the
No, not the
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis zone. The Minneapolis zone.
37 to about 45 or 46.
Okay.
You were made zone manager in 46, I believe. And then we moved to Cleveland.
In Minneapolis.
Zone
Yes.
manager.
Oh, assistant.
He was assistant and then he was made zone manager. And
He became zone manager. He was transferred down here, zone manager of Cleveland zone.
In 19.
50, 49, we were there 10 years, 1952.
1952.
So you
And I was there until I retired.
were zone manager in Cleveland when you retired. When you retired in.
19,
Indianapolis.
1970.
In Indianapolis.
Oh, so then you moved from.
From Cleveland zone
I was
to
transferred to
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis from Cleveland. Say.
So when did you leave Cleveland?
In 62, I can
1962.
answer that.
1962.
And
1962.
it was still as zone manager that you went to Indianapolis.
I went to Indianapolis. I was still zone manager.
And you retired
And
from there.
Peters was zone manager, and then
Cleveland.
for a while.
So you retired.
But, no, he was zone manager in Indianapolis. Peters.
Yeah, well, then he changed to
So
Cleveland,
when I came to Indianapolis from Cleveland, Peters
went to Cleveland.
was moved from
Indianapolis.
to Cleveland.
Yes, that's
Was
right.
moved to
You
Cleveland.
just changed zones.
And of course, they had some things in mind for Peters. And yeah, you become more involved in services, I recall. Service activity. And he's now retired too.
Who was regional manager at the time you moved to Cleveland?
It wasn't Harry Banks, it was,
No.
Oh
The
dear.
one that got killed in an airplane crash.
Carl Deast?
Carl Deese is one of them.
Who was
Okay.
with Carol
Carl
Deese?
Deese was with them, with his man. They were going from someplace down
Did-
and going there to Detroit or to
Okay.
Washington, I guess.
Jim Stroud
Jim
was
Stout.
the other. What zones were you were then in the central region, I take it.
Out of the Central Region.
What zones comprise the central region?
I didn't get the question.
How many zones were in the central region?
Oh,
There
that
was
was
one,
zone. Well, there was Chicago,
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, Cleveland, Minneapolis.
I don't think Minneapolis was in there.
That pretty well sums it up, doesn't
It
it?
sounds more like Indianapolis probably,
And Indianapolis also.
not Minneapolis.
Indianapolis.
Harry Banks was the regional manager.
He was quite a while when we were there.
You what?
Harry Banks, he's the one that used to call us all the time.
What kind of a man was he to work for?
Entirely different than all the others.
How do you mean that?
Well, he's got another little guy you never knew one next to where he stood. He kind of kept you off balance all the time. He was not, in my opinion, one of the hot best we've ever had. I think the best assistant zone manager we had was the boy that died, or not died, but the one from Cleveland, he came from Indianapolis. Excuse me, I'm sorry,
That's all
speak so
right.
poorly.
You remember who that was?
I didn't understand what
Oh,
you said.
probably Electron.
Oh, Dick Leckrone.
Yeah, Electron. I had never his own.
Elmer didn't understand what you said about you thought, you're thinking that you asked about your
I'm gonna have
assistants.
to break here and step to the bathroom for a minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes. Now, had we completed everything you wanted to say about Harry Banks?
Well, I just in a general way.
Okay.
I'm not specific at all.
That's
In
right.
fact, I have no specifics to even talk about.
He said there's a
Okay.
record
I don't
once,
remember them anymore.
a record of,
He's a man of his word. He always done what he said he was gonna do, and that's all I was concerned with.
Mhm. Now, you also worked with George Clemison.
I was,
George Clemison.
yeah, he was,
What kind of a man was he to work with?
never knew exactly where he stood with it. He's a different type of person entirely. He would not be my pick for that job, tell you that.
Okay.
But, when he retired, had a big party for him. I understand everything went great at the party and I was happy, but, in the business world, I don't think everybody is happy with it.
You also worked with Van Peters.
Well, no, I never worked with him.
Not with him. Okay.
I never worked with him or for him.
What about Bert Green?
I worked with Bert Green. Bert Green's assistant, yeah, I worked with him. Well, he's a kind of a person, and whatever he sets his mind to, that's it. Nothing will change it. You know what I mean? In other words, he makes a statement or comments, that's it. Never change it. And, I had a little bad experience, it's off the record, but not for the.
no, that's fine.
What about Pat O'Connor? Did you work with him?
I know it, I worked for him because he covered a lot more area than I covered.
Okay, all right.
But I knew him as an individual, I thought he was always considered my high grade.
What about Carl Deast?
Carl Deese was tired of, if you imagine, he was an unusual guy, as far as tightness is concerned.
He was nice, Elmer.
He had the ability, he was very capable. And done a really successful job.
Jim Stroud?
Oh, Stroud was a
Top
real
notch.
top number. Yeah. He was with a quick Carl, of course, and he got that crack up there.
Right. Newt Barber.
Oh,
Yeah, he was an unusual guy too. You knew him too, huh? But he was always kind of a stranger to me. In fact, we've covered this about all the zone managers, didn't we? The regional managers. And of course, Jim Knowles worked for me in Minneapolis.
right.
I of course went to New York and became regional manager in that area up there.
Still.
Well, Frank's very close mouth. Never had much to say to anybody. Just kind of kept his distance. But I big fan.
We saw them in Atlanta, and it was nice to see them again. We haven't seen them in a while. I don't know if Jim's still with us or not. They live in Florida somewhere,
They didn't send in their
No.
form.
not too far from us.
That's a Tacoma, I think they live.
They're somewhere around there. Catherine and Jim. We saw them in Atlanta, and we had a little nice talk with them. They went to dinner and all that.
Well, then you retired in what year?
70.
1970,
I retired in 1970. That's
1970.
correct.
From Indianapolis.
That's correct.
Okay.
And
What kind of a man was Emmett Feely to work with?
he's also one of those in the dark. You never knew where you were with him.
Well, they had to be secretive, you
He
know.
was
Like,
very, very secretive about everything. I made one little trip with him on the road and contact with a few dealers. I remember I come away, but I didn't know what he was talking about.
Were you involved much with the general managers?
Not involved a lot, just on occasion.
Okay, Mr. Wolfram?
Wolfram, Jack Wolfram, you know. I got to see him a few times alone.
How was he to work with?
Well, he's another one of those kind of people. You never knew exactly what he was thinking or what he was going to do. He kind of kept you in the dark.
Harold Metzel?
Who?
Metzel.
Harold Metzel?
Metzel.
Harold Metzger.
Metzel.
Oh, Metzel. Oh, I think he's pretty well thought of.
Howard Carroll?
Howard who?
Carroll?
Carroll.
Carroll.
Yeah, Carroll.
K-E-H-R-O?
Howard Carroll, yeah.
Carroll?
I think he's pretty well thought of.
Right. Well, Elmer, you've kind of given us a new light on some of the personalities.
I didn't help you much in this last part.
That's all right, because
But off the record, that's not an easy thing to do. Go to work again tomorrow. I'd like to go back to General Motors. I was very happy with General Motors. Very fine corporation that took care of their people.
But you worked hard too. You were.
And sure, I worked hard. That's what I hired for. That's why they hired me.
you had then, let me see, 37, 47, 57, 67, you had about 35 years, didn't you?
Yeah, roughly. 34, I think it is. 34. I think it is.
34 and a half. Let's settle it.
Did had you planned to retire, Elmer, or did you take one of the opportunities to retire early?
We've been thinking about it a little bit, but I wouldn't say it was planned, really planned. It was time, it seemed like that was the time to do it, you know. We're running back and forth up north down here for a couple of 2 or 3 months in the winter, you know. And it got to be a nuisance too. And if you're paying, you know, for a cold bill up there, a big cold bill, and nobody's even using it.
Gas.
Stuff like this.
You should probably change more. Or do you still?
No, we don't. We just lived in, we were speaking of Indianapolis.
Oh, Indianapolis, okay.